kind of get started here. I got a couple of fatal accidents that happened over the weekend that we'll start with. But the first one was early Saturday morning. It was around 1:30. It was on the 10th Street Viaduct. We had a motorcycle, a 2019 Honda, that was driving the wrong way on the East 10th Street Viaduct and ended up striking a 2011 Ford Fiesta. The motorcyclist ended up dying from injuries. At this point in time, there's no charges. They're still investigating, but I guess seemed to be pretty straightforward. There's some other vehicles that were witness to that as well. So the motorcycle was driving the wrong way on a one-way, and the vehicle, it was kind of a slight curve, and so the motorist didn't see the motorcycle until it basically came around the curve and then struck. The motorcyclist, his last name is Vanderweide, Vanderweide. First is Benjamin, Benjamin. And my computer just locked up. He is 47 from Sioux Falls. This isn't boding well, but any questions about that one? Okay, let me go over the other one while this thing fires up again. The second one was also on Saturday. This was about 10:45 p.m. This was at Arrowhead Parkway and Veterans Parkway. This one we had, the motorcycle was going west on Arrowhead Parkway, and the vehicle was making a left turn to go north onto Veterans Parkway. One second. So the collision happened. The vehicle basically turned in front of the motorcycle. The motorcycle hit the side of it. The rider was thrown, and then the driver had stopped. The driver of the vehicle stopped briefly and then left the scene. We had Brandon police that ended up finding that vehicle, and ultimately he was arrested for DWI second, hit and run, and it sounds like the additional charge of vehicular homicide will be added when he makes his court appearance today. The suspect, I don't know what's going on with this thing. His last name, oh, here we go. This works a lot better when my computer is cooperative. There it is, okay. The suspect, his last name is Surdez. First is Anthony, Anthony. Middle is Matthew, Matthew, and he's 37 from Brandon. And the motorcycle, his last name is Paulsness, Paulsness. First is Jonathan, Jonathan. Middle is Stewart, Stuart, and he's 29 from Sioux Falls.
Did the suspect turn himself in, or did police have to go find him?
They ended up finding the vehicle. I think maybe I have to check with Brandon on that, but my understanding is about the time that they arrived at his home is the time that he walked out. He claimed that he was going to notify police, but he had not at that point in time.
Was he turning on a green light?
That's one of the things we're still working to figure out. It may have been green, it may have been yellow, we're not quite sure. Hopefully they'll be able to figure some of that stuff out, and I'm not sure in that case, I don't remember seeing if there were witnesses there or not, but I didn't have a chance to review all the reports attached to that particular case. So there's more investigative work to do to, maybe some of that stuff they'll be able to determine. That particular intersection, I don't believe there's traffic cameras there. Some of them, if there's traffic cameras, obviously that's a pretty easy way to figure out if there were a light issue that was involved.
And did the motorcycle have their lights on, and were they going through a green light?
That part we don't know yet. So the timing of the lights, what color they were for each vehicle, I don't know if we have that information yet.
And I saw a post from police about people driving through the barricades, through the scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really that uncommon. Especially if you're on a busier road and you have, typically when a road is shut down, it's because of a serious accident. Sometimes, in this case, somebody lost their life, other times there's serious injuries. There's a lot of times people just, that's their normal route. They need to get from point A to point B, and they don't seem to care if there's police cars or fire trucks or barricades up. They'll just drive around them because they need to get through that, and that's the way they always go. So yeah, I think it's one of the problems that police have. I won't say it happens all the time, but it's not a super rare occurrence. I mean, it happens from time to time, and sometimes it's people not paying attention, sometimes they may be impaired, sometimes they just don't care, that they just need to get through there, and it's the way they need to go. So
Does that compromise your investigation at the scene?
it certainly can. When you think about a car motorcycle accident, there's going to be debris, and that plays a part in the investigation. One of the reasons that roads are closed for so long is the investigators will map out all those different pieces of debris, and that aids in reconstructing what happened, if there was speed involved, all of those things. So if you have somebody that now drives through and those pieces and parts get moved around, it could impact it. The other side of that is the safety of not only police, but if you have the ambulance or the fire department that are out there, you have those people, you set up barricades, you try to block the road as best you can with the expectation that the other people will stop and follow the rules. And if you have somebody that's driving around barricades or driving past a emergency vehicle, there's a chance that one of the first responders could be injured as well, because their focus is on the scene. It's not necessarily on the surroundings, because they have things blocked off for a reason. So it can be a very dangerous situation. There could be any number of reasons why that happens, but it's unfortunate that it still does happen.
Is that the third motorcycle fatality of July?
I believe so, yeah.
There's a young man killed on Sycamore earlier in July.
Yes,
Ran into a sign.
yes, that was like 53rd and Sycamore, so yeah, that was not too long ago.
Was speeded, I don't know, was there actually an investigation of the whole speeded issue in that particular?
It takes a while.
Okay.
Yeah, the accident reconstruction, when they do that stuff, there's a lot of things they're looking at. It's not a fast process. There's a lot of physics, a lot of math that's involved, and I think if I had to estimate, I'd say maybe around 4 to 6 weeks. Part of the problem is the officers that do that reconstruction, they have other duties, so they can't just completely drop what they're doing and focus on that. So it takes a while. That one, I don't know if we have any indication if speed was a factor. These two recent ones, it doesn't seem to be, but I don't know if we know that conclusively yet.
Was there any surveillance video in the area of this Veterans and Arrowhead crash that you've been able to find or that you're looking for?
It's too early for that. That's another thing that they'll do, especially for the serious or fatal accidents, is they'll look for surveillance. One of the tools that they have is they can use basically a time distance calculator. So if you have a surveillance video that shows a vehicle and they know what point that enters a camera and what point it leaves, they can time that out and then they can find that distance, and I think it's fairly complicated, but they're able to determine at least a speed at that point. And so if there's excessive speed, that may, depends on what it is, but that may be a contributing factor to the crash, but not necessarily always.
With the speed that they found the suspect's vehicle, was there a description of the vehicle? Did somebody see this happen and see a vehicle with that tight drive away? 'Cause, I mean, that's pretty fast to find a suspect like that.
Yeah, I don't have all the reports in yet. The ones that I reviewed this morning didn't say how they came upon that, so I don't have details on that. But you're right, it is pretty fast to have. But there was some pretty substantial damage to the passenger side of that vehicle, so that may have been a factor as well.
They must have found it fairly quickly after the accident.
I think they did, yeah. I don't think there was too much of a delay. Okay, moving on, we've got a couple of aggravated assaults. Let's see, this was in the 4900 block of East 18th Street. This was Saturday, about 9:30 p.m. We had a couple of people that, I guess they're neighbors, they kind of know each other. There was some type of maybe dispute. So we had a guy that drove up in his car. We had a woman, 35-year-old woman was outside with her 5-year-old daughter. And there were some words that were exchanged, and he clearly wasn't happy with the woman. He ended up pulling out a gun, threatening them, and then as he drove away, he fired out of his vehicle back at the couple, the mom and the girl. Thankfully, there was no injuries from that. We had officers that were able to find him nearby. He was arrested for quite a few different things. There were no injuries. There was a couple of other juveniles that were inside the home at the time as well. Do you want his name?
Sure.
Okay. The last name is Revolorio, Hernandez. I'm guessing there's a hyphen in there, but our system doesn't do hyphens. First name is Uver. Middle is Antonio. He's 49, and we have 2 counts of aggravated assault, domestic, possession of a firearm by a former violent offender, 2 counts of aggravated assault, possession of a loaded firearm while intoxicated, reckless discharge of a firearm, DWI, possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, commit a felony with a firearm, and there were some other minor charges as well that he had, but those were the big main ones. And another aggravated assault, this was the 600 block of West 18th Street. This was a little after 8 p.m. on Saturday. This one we had a couple of guys that were in at a home, and they noticed somebody was inside the garage. This guy they didn't know ended up pulling out a knife and charging at them. They kind of ran away, and then this guy ran inside the house. He ended up going down into the basement, started breaking things, and at some point they heard some glass break, and then it got quiet. They expected him to come out of the basement. Turns out he ended up breaking the window and then left outside the house. We had officers that came to that area. There was a short foot pursuit, but he was found nearby. Sounds like this guy, one of the victims, may have been in a relationship or is in a relationship with this guy's ex. So they think that's the kind of tie-in there. But he was arrested for aggravated assault, burglary, intentional damage, and then also placed on a parole hold. Do you want his name?
Sure.
Okay. Last is Logan, Logan. First is Henry, Henry. Middle is Ricky Shane, Rickey Shane, and he's 25 from Sioux Falls. Let's see. The other ones are basically reports. There's some threats. Somebody was stabbed in the leg, but really didn't provide any details on what happened. Some other people were threatened with knives or guns, but no serious injuries from any of those things, and most of those we don't have arrests on. The burglary had one where we had an arrest. That was at a business. There was a outdoor register at a bar. A guy jumped the fence and then was trying to pry open the till. Somebody saw him and yelled at him, and he took off. We ended up finding him, and he was arrested for the burglary and intentional damage to property. Let's see, nothing big from the disorderlies, family offenses and disputes. I don't have anything, a lot of protection order violations from those. The indecent exposure was a guy that was urinating, larcenies, narcotics, and vandalisms I didn't have a chance to get to. The rape and sex offenses are reports. The robbery, the first one was a guy, he was getting a ride with some people. They ended up, somebody punched him and took his wallet. No arrests on that. The second one was at a convenience store. A guy basically was just trying to take some stuff, so it was not quite a shoplifting. He was trying to get somebody else to pay for some items. That person, he didn't know the guy, and so he refused. The clerks told him that he had to pay for it before he could leave, and then he ended up pulling out a gun. One of the clerks grabbed the guy, and he was right next to him, and so there was a struggle. Turns out the gun was an airsoft gun, but nobody knew that. They held him down until officers got there, and there happened to be an officer right in the area, so it was only a matter of probably a minute or so. That guy was arrested for robbery, ended up finding some meth with him, so controlled substance. He had some warrants, and then simple assaults, or simple assault, I guess. And do you want his name? Okay. There we go. His last name is Sango. First is Imani, and he's 26 from Sioux Falls. Let's see, simple assaults, I didn't have a chance, didn't hear of anything big with those. Nothing suspicious with the unattended death. The weapons call, that was, somebody found a bullet hole in a building, a commercial building. The weapons violation, that was created an error, so that was tied to a different case. The only other thing I was gonna mention is National Night Out is taking place tomorrow night. I'll end up sending out a list of the different different gatherings that'll be taking place, but it's a great chance for people to go out, meet their neighbors, get to know them. This has been very successful over the years in Sioux Falls. We support it. We have officers that stop by all the different groups and neighborhoods to just visit with them. But it's one of the things that's really nice, that when people can get to know each other, that's what we found, is that they're more likely to look out for each other. That's really kind of the driving force behind National Night Out and why it was started. But first Tuesday of every year, or every year, first Tuesday of every August is when it's held. So it'll be tomorrow evening. Typically it's between 6 and 8, but some of the times vary a little bit from there. But I'll send some more information out on that later today. I think that's all I got, unless you have anything else.
Was there a moped crash on Friday?
Maybe. Do you know where about?
I don't. I'm sorry, if, I can email you about it too, if it's gonna be too hard to find.
Sycamore or something.
You thought around noon?
Yeah, 11:50-ish, or 11:45.
Takes a while to think, so give me a second.
Can I ask you one more question
Yeah.
while it's thinking?
Mhm.
I apologize if I missed this, but did you specify the type of vehicle in the crash on Arrowhead and Veterans? What the suspect was driving?
Don't think I did. That was a 2011 Lincoln Navigator and then a 2014 Suzuki. And this one did pop up. So the moped accident, 11:20, actually 11:23 if you want to get specific, but it was near 18th and Sycamore. We had a woman driving it, and there was a child that was on the moped as well. The moped was switching lanes and ended up hitting some loose gravel, which caused them to lose control. So there were injuries to both her and the child. The child was not wearing a helmet, and she was charged with abuse or cruelty to a minor under 7, a minor riding on a motorcycle without a helmet, and then rider interfering with the controller view of the motorcycle operator. So the child was in front of her when it happened.
How old was the child?
Let's see, yeah, it's right here. 4-year-old boy.
How old was the driver?
She is 24.
Was it the mom, or do you know the relationship?
Let me see if that said. I think it was, but. Yeah, they're related.
What day was that?
That was Friday morning, actually. 11. I guess we got the call at 11:18.
Do you have the name of the driver?
Yes. Her last name is Arrowwood, Arrowwood. First is Laura, Laura. Middle is Kate, Kate, and 24 from Sioux Falls.
Did they have to go to the hospital, or just minor injuries?
Yeah, I think they went to the hospital, were treated and released. Yeah, went to the hospital, were treated and released.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Speaking about the first aggravated assault,
Yep.
you mentioned there were other juveniles inside that house. Were they related to the lady?
I think they were all. I think it was all. She's the mom, and I think they were her kids. Let me see if I can. Yeah, they were all her kids. So the one was outside, the other two were inside. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.